All right, so this lesson is on polynomial functions. So a couple things we need to know. A polynomial has more than two terms, right? Because binomial is two terms. Polynomial means it has more than two. What else do we need to know from this screen? We need to know the degree. Degree is the greatest exponent, the biggest exponent. So all of these, and I'll just show you the next one, they're going to have exponents. Your degree is going to be the biggest exponent, the biggest number. And your leading coefficient is the term that's in front of that variable. So let's just dive right in. It's pretty easy stuff. So degree is your biggest exponent. So let's look at our exponents. I got a 5 and a 3. The biggest exponent is a 5. So that is my degree. The leading coefficient is the number that's in front of it. So -5 is in front of that x, so my leading coefficient is a -5. So again, degree is the biggest exponent. The leading coefficient is just the number that's in front of it. All right, let's look at these exponents. I got a 1 on this y, I got a 2, I got a 5, and I got a 6. The biggest exponent is a 6, so that's my degree. The leading coefficient is the number with that. So what's with my y to the 6th? A 7. So my leading coefficient is 7. All right, check this one out. Now, well, look, I got a u and a t. So remember the very first slide? It had a polynomial in one variable. One variable means it can only have one letter. So this is not a polynomial in one variable. So when you get to your worksheet looks like this, you would pick it's not a polynomial in one variable, okay? So it's multiple choice, and you'll just pick, hey, no, that's not a polynomial in one variable, all right? So this is null. We're not even doing that, okay? Here, my leading degree. If there is no exponent, it's a 1. Well, this doesn't even have an a. So my degree is going to be a 1. My leading coefficient, the number in front of it, what do you put if there is no number? You put a 1. So my leading coefficient is also a 1. Here, whoa, check this one out. Again, I have two variables, right? I have an x and a y. So this is not a polynomial in one variable. So I don't even worry about that. All right, here, my exponents are a 3 and a 2, and this one's a 1. What's the biggest exponent? The 3. What's the number in front of that? A 1/5. All right, let's do this one, degrees. I got a 2 and a 3 and an 8. So my highest degree is an 8. The number with that, okay, this is a little bit tricky. Remember there's really a 1 here. We're going to put this fraction, okay? That fraction is my leading coefficient. So my leading coefficient is 1/36. Now, one thing that I didn't do an example of, and that's my bad. Let me make one up real quick. All right, here we go. So let's do degree and leading coefficient. My degree, the biggest exponent, is the 6. So I'm just going to put a D for degree. My degree is a 6. My leading coefficient, what's in front of that? Well, it's a 3, but make sure you put that minus with it. It's not just 3. My leading coefficient would actually be a -3. I think there's a couple like that on your worksheet, so I wanted to make sure you saw that. There's a minus in front of it. Bring that minus with it and make it a -3, okay? All right, and the last part on your worksheet is pretty simple. We're just going to take whatever value it gives us and plug it in for x. So I'm going to do 3, and then I'm going to do -2 to the 3rd. I always like to do parentheses, especially with negatives, just because when you're typing it in your calculator, if you put parentheses around your negatives, your calculator knows exactly what you're telling it to plug in. So check out what I did. Everywhere I saw an x, I just plugged in -2. And again, I put it in parentheses. So let me show you how this is going to look typing it in. So I got 3 and a parentheses -2. And that's raised to the 3rd. Then I have a minus. I'm going to do a parentheses and do another -2. and that one's raised to the second. And then I got plus 2 in another parentheses, and I got a negative 2. There was no exponent on that one. And then I'm going to end with a minus 5. And I get negative 37. So that is p to the negative 2. That's what we got. And then it wants us to do it again, but this time do it for 3. So again, every time I see an x, I'm going to put a 3 in. I just got in the habit of always putting parentheses. I don't know, maybe my algebra teacher forced that into my brain. But I always, when I'm plugging them in, I put it in parentheses. And it's just an easy way to make sure, like I don't accidentally type in 33 instead of 3 times 3 to the, well, that should be a 3. It's good. I would do that if I were you. I would always put whatever I'm plugging in parentheses. And then plus 2 to the third minus 5. And I get 73. I got one more. I'm only going to do the negative one. I think y'all are good with these. So everywhere I see an x, I'm going to plug in a negative 2. My writing gets sloppier and sloppier as these things go on. Alright, so again, typing this in, I would type in negative 7, and in parentheses, I'd put negative 2 to the second, plus 5, and in parentheses, I'd put negative 2, and then end with a plus 9. I can hear Hudson coming. And you get negative 29. So I think that's it. I think you guys can handle, yes, that's it. So go try worksheet 5.3 and let me or Mr. Miller know if you need help. Thanks.